All right. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thought we'd do a little Fleabay edition. I'm going to do things a little bit differently today. I um, I was going to shoot this yesterday morning, and I sat down, and in reality, under the three areas that we normally look for these Atlas parts, I didn't really see anything that really intrigued me. I did see a set of index centers that was listed, new set that I hadn't seen before. They were starting them at 300 and some dollars, I think. I don't remember exactly. They're probably still here. We'll go back and look at them in a minute here. But I really didn't see anything else that really caught my attention. There was a bunch of the same crap that we've already looked at, a bunch of parts from the same seller that was listed last time we did this and hadn't sold. So what I'm going to start off doing is when I see something that intrigues me a little bit, why I'll go back and I'll save it into my favorites list or my watch list, just so that I get notifications when they're about to go off, and a lot of times I'll use those for references. For there's been something that has intrigued me there, so I've saved them to either go back and print out the pictures later, or just to keep an eye on them and see what they're doing and see what they sold for. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to go back through my watch list, and I don't know how much of these I'll show. I'll probably show you a big picture of, or just a little picture of some of these. I'm not actually going to go in and look at them, I don't think. But this is stuff that I've saved into this watch list, and a lot of this stuff has been here for a long time. It's been relisted several times. So it's kind of back to that point that I tried to make about don't get too caught up in jumping on these because you think you're never going to see one again. Because there's a lot of this stuff that I said was way overpriced, and it hasn't sold. So it's just turned around, and either there's been a little bit of time passed, or else it's just immediately been relisted by the seller, or automatically relisted, from the seller through eBay, where they've already scheduled it to be relisted until it's sold or whatever. So it gets kind of confusing, and maybe there's a way to go back in and look at it, but it doesn't really tell you how long these have been relisted. If you go in and look at them, it'll tell you that an item's been relisted, if it hasn't sold and stuff. But after they've been listed several times, why it'll just show up here in the watch list and continue to be done. And some of these stuff have been here for probably at least a year. I'm looking at about 80 items now, and some of these I'll go and delete out as I've either lost interest or got the information I want off of them or something that way. But I'm already back onto my second page of stuff, and here's a 10 by 30 inch lathe. That's a red one, been painted up red or an orange or something. Vertical counter shaft, it looks like, and the buy it now is $12.95. I basically remember looking at this quite a while back. I don't remember if it was more or not. And right now there's 47 people watching it. Well, it's been, and this is from a dealer, so it's been here for a while, and people are beginning to realize the value of these. So a lot of the times, we get into that buying fever and we've got to have it now. And the reality is it's not worth that much money, and if we just leave it set, why it's going to be there. Sometimes you're going to miss out on that stuff, but ultimately the price is going to come down on them. Now here's a Atlas tool post grinder, and I remember looking at this probably at least 2 or 3 months ago. They were wanting $600 and $60 shipping. I said back then that was way too much. These are worth $250 probably. So it's there, and just because you haven't seen one for a while certainly does not mean that it's going to be gone, or they're rare or something like that. Yeah, Atlas horizontal milling machine arbor support arm and bracket. This is the 1.5-inch bar that's 16 or 18 inches long that supports your arbor if you're running an arbor on your mill, and it's got the end bracket. They want $650 for it, or best offer and shipping. This has been listed for a while. It's worth $150, what it's worth. So and there's these green shaper guards, $310 a piece for the small one, and then $310 for the large one. From a seller we've seen, they're not worth that. They're just literally not worth that. Small guard, $150. Large guard, maybe $200. It's all they're worth. Now I do see that, and it shows this is relisted. We talked about this Atlas lathe Pick-O-Matic covers with the banjo and brackets, and how the seller had two different two different auctions going on, one that had the covers and things like that, and the other that had the gearbox, where I said they should have been, those, they didn't sell, no bids on them. Okay, now here's this MFC milling machine with the vertical head that we talked about. Now, the seller relisted this item, and now it's showing it's out of stock. So somebody has apparently bought this for $2,050 with that vertical head. It's probably a fair price at $2,050. I mean, if you get much over that, I think it's too much money for what you're getting. But anyway, that one did sell, and we just looked at that last week. There's a couple that I've saved here just for me that have ended that aren't worth looking at. Now here's, no, that's sold too. Okay, here's a set of, and these are still in my watch list. Complete Atlas Craftsman 10 and 12 inch lathe back gear assembly. This one's ended. Buy it now, $29.95. I vaguely remember looking at this. That's a fair price. I'm not surprised that sold, and I think that's the only time that I've seen that listed. Maybe it may have been relisted, but I don't really remember it. Now here's another MFC milling machine with a vertical head. Shows it out of stock. Buy it now, $2,200. And there again, it's another Atlas mill that had a vertical head on it. Let me go in and look at this very quickly and see. It's sold here. Do they say anything? Okay, this is not the last one that we looked at. This is, this one I believe has been listed for a while. And nothing spectacular about the machine, although it does have a vertical head. Yeah, I do remember this only because it had the newer style back gear arm, but the knob was missing. It's just got a screw in it. Otherwise, nothing spectacular about the machine. Motor had been changed on it. Not as good as the last one that sold for $2,050. So that was a better machine all the way around. Just because I believe it had the overarm, the guard on the vertical head, that type of thing. Okay, there's a multi-stop carriage stop, the 690. It sold, and it was originally listed, I think it had a buy it now of $250. It shows best offer accepted. So we realize those are not worth $250. Those are a $100 stop is what those go for. So, and I think there was, at that time, there was a couple of them listed there, but this has been listed several times. This is not a new listing by any means. And this one was not original. The lock nuts, I believe, had been changed and that type of thing. So this was not a great thing. Now, I've kind of been looking at some of the original forward-reverse switches, the electrical switches, with the idea of reproducing them at some time. And I have bought parts of these. I've looked at a couple of these switches, and they've both sold in my listing here. And they sold for that $80 price, is that amount. Now, this one's listed at $80 and it says it's ended. Best offer accepted. So it didn't go for $80. Somebody's giving them less than that. And I've watched these. They come up periodically, and so no great shakes there. But yeah, so there's been a couple of those they have sold, and there's reasonable prices for them out there if we watch them. Now here's this, apparently this Atlas horizontal milling machine arbor cutter guard, the M122. That we talked about, that I said was way overpriced at $350. That says it's sold, but for $350 and $22.45, that's ridiculous. I said before that we should have those up and running in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think, or the 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever. The pattern is done except to finish it. The core box is almost done. I'll probably finish it up today, with the exception of adding finish to them and doing final fitting and things like that on them. So these are going to be out there. I would imagine I'm going to put this guard out there for about, I'm guessing the 225 to probably 200 to 225 range is what I'm going to sell those for, plus shipping. So assuming that goes well, and that's always, I may be putting my foot in my mouth, but I would imagine with the time I've got invested in them and what it's going to cost material wise and to cast those up, I would imagine about $225 is my guess of where I'm going to price those. Now it may run into something to where I have a whole lot more machining time on those just from the way I'm going to machine them. So we'll see. It may be, but $350 is way too much for those. That's just way out of sight. And this is from a seller that just rips people off. So, and I think, okay, that pretty much ends out my watch list. So let's go back and see what we've got that's new here. And if we look, let's start with shapers. Yeah, and there again, I'm not seeing anything that intrigues me. Now, there are some things here now, and I don't think I'm going to go and look at these, just because I think if they're really of interest to you, you can go in and look at them and see what's going on. This is that same shaper that was being parted out. From the looks of the thumbnail pictures and everything, it's the same shaper from the same seller that was parting out a machine when we talked about them this last week. The grease cap cup, Atlas 7B Atlas 7B shaper, 10-12 inch lathe, grease cup cap, and it's just the cap that goes on there. They want $12.99 and $3.85 shipping. That's about what you see these listed for. For a used one, for what they are, I guess that's not too bad. Now you go on down, right below it, there's the S780 bushing set of 2 pre-owned. These are the bushings that go to run the feed on the shaper. And I guess they have some applications on the lathe, although you'll find that the differences between the link arm, these are the bushings that go on them. It depends on what application they're being used on. The link arm is the same throughout all the Atlas machines that use them, which is just the lathe and the shaper. The mill doesn't use them. I don't believe. But the difference is the size of the bushings that goes in here. Now they're wanting $10.99 for these bushings and $3.85 shipping. That's too much for a used piece of crap bushing. What you do is you go to your local big box store, your local Ace Hardware, and you order those bushings, or you pull them out of the drawer that they've got them. They've got oil light bushings, flanged oil light bushings in stock. They're less than $5 a piece for a brand new bushing. So don't get caught up in this $10.99 and $3.85 shipping BS. You go over and you spend $10 and you've got a pair of brand new bushings to go in those. Right below it's another one, $7.99. That's too much money. On down is the shaper rod, the S7-79, and this is the link rod. It does fit on the lathe and on the bushings. $10 and $4.35 shipping. They virtually, I've never seen one broken, or realistically go bad. There is either aluminum or a Zamac part. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. Probably a Zamac part out of a permanent mold from that time. $9.99 and $4.35 shipping. That's fair. That's a fair price on there. Below it, tool post slide gib S7-47A, $34.99 and $4.65 shipping. That's crap. You just you build your own, cold roll, piece of cold roll, or piece of Starrett tool steel, unhardened tool steel is all you need. And then they've got extra parts on down there, the miter gears and the studs and things like that. Usually these are probably in no better condition than what you already got. I wouldn't waste my money on there. Same way, milling machine cross rail feed screw S729A, $84.99. It's going to be wore out. It's going to be a wore out piece of crap. Why would you want it on your machine? Walton American number 6 small metal shaper tool holder, like an Armstrong 39 Atlas and Logan. I saw this yesterday, but I didn't look at it. And I'm not going to look at it now. They want 150 bucks for it. No, that's a waste of your money. Now here is one, and I believe it's from a different seller. And then we're on back down into the same stuff that we've looked at last week. Here is a misrepresented part. Atlas Craftsman 910 12-inch lathe and 7B 7-inch metal shaper part, L6 723 hinge, pre-owned, $39.95 and $22.60 shipping. Even if it does fit what you want it to fit, you're being ripped off there. That's way too much for that little hinge. This does not fit the metal shaper. This is not a hinge that goes on any place on the metal shaper, and we can go and look at it a little bit closer and just look at the big pictures. Well, let's read the description first. See if the description tells us anything. Who's selling it? This is from a machine tool dealer, so should know better. Atlas Craftsman 910 12-inch lathe and 7B 7-inch metal shaper lathe. Metal shaper part, L6-723 hinge. Doesn't fit the shaper. This is the big pictures only. This fits the lathe. It clamps to the lathe bed to hold the guard on the end, and you'll have to go look up the numbers and see if this fits all of them and all the different covers, all the different swing open covers, or it has certain applications. Looks like a rusted up piece of crap to start with. Clamps to the lathe bed. There's no bottom clamp plate, which is just a flat plate, and probably, I believe those are probably only a 5/16 screw, although those might be a 3/8. Yeah, it's a rusted up piece of shit. That's what this is. Piece of crap. And that L6 number, I believe that's for the later commercial machines. I do not believe that is the proper hinge either for the smaller, earlier 10-inch lathes like we look at, 10 or 12-inch lathes. I believe that's for the commercial version. All you have to check to be sure. But that hinge in that condition, that's worth 10 bucks. 10 bucks, and that'll fit in a small flat rate box. And they want $22.60 expedited shipping. Now, that's 20 bucks in your door. Half. Worth half. And under shapers, there's nothing else that's new and exciting there. Nothing that's that exciting here. If we look at milling machines, new listing, Atlas horizontal milling machine, M Morse Taper 2 arbor for 1-inch arbors, $200 or best offer. Well, let's rip you off a little more here. Let's look at this fine piece of, this is from one of our sellers that finds it good to take more money than they should. It doesn't tell you any more in the description. And big pictures only. Let's see here. Now they've got it marked 5/8 on the shaft. This looks relatively clean. You don't have nearly enough spacers to fill that. It's an awful short key, which is still fine. That's functional. Been cleaned up a little bit. It actually looks like we got a couple little markings there. Your vice grips kind of gripped there pretty good. This has obviously been cleaned up. Yeah, you can see some staining there. There's your channel lock marks. This has been wire brushed or probably been wire brushed off and cleaned up pretty well. Yeah, there's your chewed up marks. This has got quite a bit of staining on it that's been polished off, wire brushed off. Arbor spacers, which are just, doesn't matter what they are. You know, diameter wise, if they don't match, it doesn't really matter, but how good are they really? Used arbor for these, 100 bucks. It's all the used one's worth. You know, if you've got somebody that's producing a brand new arbor that's ground the way it's supposed to be, they're going to be worth 200 bucks. But the idea that these used ones are worth 200 bucks is ludicrous. And the ones, there was somebody that was producing them with aluminum spacers, which there again probably worked fine. Over time, they're going to show a little more wear and probably a little more run out, but um, they're probably fine in that respect. But yeah, they're not worth 200 bucks. We're going to skip over a couple of lathe things. Now here's a milling machine M1 200 index centers. They want $395 and $25 shipping is and no bids. So I looked at these yesterday. This is a brand new seller. You know, maybe it's just somebody that's selling what they've got. 3 pieces of tooling and no knobs. What you see is what you're bidding on. You know, this may be somebody he's got very few feedbacks here. Let's look at the big pictures only on this. Probably a good set of index centers. They're well beat up. You know, those are pretty well scarred up and used and abused. That's not the proper drive dog. You know, the proper drive dog is just a, well, you can look at the Atlas drive dogs, but it's got the 2 knobs, but why do we not have the studs that lock those in position? When you look at the bigger pictures, or when you zoom in on these a little bit, there's quite a bit of, you know, you got quite a bit of yuck here. This got quite a bit of staining on it, quite a bit of rust. This handle's corroded out pretty good on it, or, you know, pretty well pitted out as far as the chrome goes. So this set of index centers has been well used and abused. Gonna clean up fine, gonna be functional. You know, it doesn't show you the bottom to see if it's got the keys, which isn't that important, but nonetheless, kind of is. Now I see keyways cut in the bottom of this one, which would not be proper. It would have 1 keyway cut long ways, so it aligned in the bed. So this has probably been fitted to a different machine for some other application and used for something, you know, to index, which is fine. I mean, there's no problem with that. This is not an original screw here on this end, and like I say, you've got no studs to lock the shafts in position, so I don't know what's going on there. So it's got some problems. Worth 400 bucks? Not to me. You know, it's a $250 set of centers. That's what they're worth. Below it's an XY compound machinist vise, 7x7 inch drill mill vise. It's the XY axis. They want $345 for it. I'm not going to go look at it. No, it's worth 250 bucks. Other than that, I don't see anything else new. We're back to looking at the same old crap. Same old junk. Junk. Okay, now here we're showing another guard. Now see, it showed that last guard. Maybe this is the guard we looked at last week, and maybe the one that was in my watch list was has been on my watch list for a while. So good used replacement part, may need cleaning, a little rust. Okay, so this is the one we looked at, and the one that sold for $350 on my watch list is one that's been there for a while, so I don't actually know when it sold. I didn't look that close. Anyway, if we look at the big pictures here, yeah, this is the same one we looked at the other day. It's not worth 350 bucks. Nah. It's not worth 350 bucks. This is worth, you know, it's worth 200 bucks. Got a lot of dark on it. A lot of dark on it. There we go. Yeah, and everything else. This is stuff that we've looked at before. Nothing there that makes me smile. So let's go and look at lathes and see what we see here. T-nuts, 22 bucks, brand new. Somebody's building. I know who's building these. You know, if somebody needs a T-nut, I'm going to match those prices. I'm going to charge 20 bucks a piece for them, and mine are going to be blued. So, new listing, TH42 quick change lathe with tooling and milling attachment. pre-owned, $2,000 or best offer, free local pickup. Let's look at this one quickly if it'll load here, which it doesn't seem to want to do. Try that again. There we go. Okay. Yeah, and this is a free pickup. This is a, this is a yard sale item. You gotta be in that area to get it. Let's see, Atlas TH42 quick change lathe with tooling and milling attachment. Tooling includes steady rest, follow rest, 3 and 4 jut chuck, faceplate, lantern tool post, live center, dead center, tool holders, knurling tool, boring barn holder, and parting tool. Motor is reversible but only wired in one direction for testing. Lathe runs nicely, wear on ways, but great hobby machine. So in other words, it probably hadn't been run much if it was only wired for one direction for testing. Big pictures only. Not a bad looking machine from what we can see. It does have the quick change box. Yeah, Dayton motor, but see, I question when they say it was only wired for one direction in testing. Why was it only done that way? Yeah, quite a bit of fairly grungy there, although I've seen a whole lot worse. Okay, so it's got a Craftsman motor on it. Had a couple crashes, several crashes here. These areas right here, going to be pretty well worn. And this is where it spent its life because they've crashed it up here on this end. So it's been used and abused. Milling attachments, so it looks to be a different color, I think. So it's probably it was probably added later, which is neither here nor there. Looks like that handles pretty well. Salt and peppered there, pitted pretty well in that plating. Missing the handle there. Rusted up handle here. Looks to be rusted. So was that, maybe that was an original handle. Those were originally Zamac and plated. You can't really tell. That almost looks like a steel handle. It's just rusted. So maybe it was replaced, maybe not. Probably if we'd go in and look closer, we could get a better condition of what those gears looked like, those gear teeth looked like, see if they've had lots and lots of gunk run in them for a long time. So that's what we got. Is it worth $2,000? Not to me. Those are $1,200 machines, $1,500 machines maybe, since it's tooled pretty well. .618-101 lathe counter shaft, L9-20A M621, pre-owned, $200. Counter shaft assembly is not worth $200. I don't care for what lathe it is. It's worth, 100 and a quarter, maybe 150. Other than that, I don't see anything that really intrigues me there. Yeah, a bunch of lathe parts here, but it's, for the most part, is junk that we've looked at before. Now here is a 6-position tailstock turret Morse Taper 2 Craftsman Atlas 10-12 inch South Bend 9 10K lathe, pre-owned, $4,750. buy it now, and $17.40 shipping. This is the last thing I think we'll look at, because I feel like I'm wasting all of our time here this morning doing this. This is from a seller that's been around a little bit. You know, I recognize the name in the machine tool thing. Yeah, all it says is 6th position tailstock turret Morse taper number 2. So this fits your Atlas. This fits all of the smaller lathes, and this is a, let's look at the big pictures. There's only 2 of them here. And this has been wire brushed off. You can tell from looking at it that it's been cleaned up quite a bit and everything. These tailstocks, they are in function, they're going to be fairly similar to the production turret tailstocks. They are manually indexed. You push this lever down, it releases it, you rotate it to the position you want. And this will fit in your tailstock turret, or your tailstock, and allow you to have that turret function. Like I say, it's going to be very similar to Atlas's turret tailstock, with the exception of you're going to have to manually run it with the hand wheel at the back. They work. They're okay. These were originally marketed, probably the most common is by Enco, is where we saw them. I don't see any name at all on this one, and I kind of looked at it before. I looked at this yesterday. And there's the bottom of it. You know, they're pretty simple. They do work. You know, if you want to add a little bit of that capability, you can. Yeah, they're probably a useful accessory. $50 is probably not out of line for it. They originally sold for about $50 or $60, as I remember, you know, a few years back. I haven't seen any new production of these. Of course, I haven't looked for them. You know, they may still be available for maybe not a whole lot more money, but this is not a bad little turret. You know, so you can decide for yourself if it's something you want to add to your machine. It's a good option to add that 6-station turret capability to a manual machine. It's going to speed up production a little bit. So, and like I say, $50 is probably not out of line. So anyway, I don't see a whole lot here right now that really interests me. You know, there's not that much that's out there. There's a few things that are reasonably priced. I'm not seeing a whole lot of new stuff that really intrigues me. You know, I didn't go back and look through some of the antique categories for mills and shapers, and there may be a little bit more there, but I'm not going to spend the time doing it. So hopefully you find this a little bit useful. Comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys. And as always, have a good week, and thanks for taking the time to watch.